Hello and welcome to an episode of Real Time Recorded. Zeus and I are here to discuss a very busy earnings period. It's a very busy period in general. In fact, Zeus, you're at an airport.
I am in an airport at Mobile World Congress.
Yeah, people ask me, where I work. I tell them the United Club.
Yeah, that's where I am now.
You're in my office,
Yeah.
but I'm not there right now. So you'll have to eat the jelly candy without me. Okay, so we got a lot of companies here to go through, and we've got a departure coming up here. So let's just jump right into this. Let's start off with, I guess we'll do them in alphabetical order. So let's start off with 8x8.
Sure.
8x8. I guess Sipes left in November of last year, of 2022, and Samuel Wilson was kind of named the interim CEO. So he's been there for a while, but he was only made the actual CEO in May of 23, and that's when he really started making big changes and changing leaders and executives. So it's almost been a year, I guess 9 months, and now we're starting to see the new 8x8 under Sam Wilson, and it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I know their numbers were they missed by a little bit, like 2 million or something. That was a pretty small miss. But I
don't remember if they missed or not. But they're 60%. They were 60% year-over-year revenue growth. I remember that part.
Yeah.
So who knows what they were forecasting? But
they missed by a little bit. But I think for 8x8, this is part of the progression of the transformation of the company, right? I think their vision of XCaaS was well ahead of where they were product wise. Because they still had an integrated fuse in and things. And I know their analyst summit's coming up at the end of this week, which I'll miss because I'll be in Barcelona, but you'll be there.
I'll be there. I got you covered, Zeus. I'll be eating lots of food for you.
I believe we'll see more progression towards that, how they're actually bringing UCaaS and CCaaS together and the benefits that brings. And I think a lot of vendors talk about it, but they're the only ones with front desk and their sales desktop that actually are trying to build products that actually fit the vision of bringing those two areas together. And so this has been
more importantly, they're kind of doing that shift from UC first to CCaaS first.
Yeah.
And to your point, these new apps are really filling that spot. They ended the year with 170 million, or into the quarter, I guess, with 170 million in cash. So a lot of people have kind of written off 8x8, but I think they're actually doing pretty good. I really think Samuel was a great addition to the team, and I know he's made a lot of additions too. I was just at the United Club the other day because I was just at the Cognigy event in Germany, and 8x8 is one of Cognigy's partners, 8x8 and Avaya, and 8x8 was at the event. And what they're doing right now, I question this, but they're leading with contact center and selling Cognigy as an add-on. But I'm wondering if they should lead with Cognigy because that's a really impressive app. That would allow them to go into non-8x8 contact centers, and then they can position the 8x8 as an add-on sale. I think that would work really well for them. I think I'll mention that to Samuel next week. See how
I do think there's since they bought Fuse, it's taken them a long time to integrate those back ends, and I think looking ahead is when we should start seeing the benefits of that. It's hard to, for a public company, it's hard to change the wings while the plane's flying, and that's essentially what they've had to do.
Well, let's jump on to the next one. So we got a lot of companies to cover here. So Audio Codes. I don't know. Every time I look at Audio Codes, it's a whole new company again. This company has gone through more transformations, more pivots, but kudos to them. I mean, they got the same CEO, and our industry keeps changing. And whatever's hot, 5 years ago is not hot 5 years later. And so they've done a fantastic job of reinventing themselves. And as far as I can tell, they are currently a Teams company. They're really driving that Teams ecosystem, very strong with SBCs, phones, room systems. They're building out their applications. And what seems to be their growth spot, and what they're really excited about right now, when I talk to them, is I think it's called Voca, which is their SMB contact center for Teams. That's a whole new emerging category, SMB contact center for Teams. But they seem to be in a really good position on that. Any thoughts on Audio Codes?
Yeah, I don't really follow them. I do know that they have made the hard pivot over to Teams, but frankly, so is everybody else, right? And so that's going to be interesting to see if any of these vendors can really step up and differentiate themselves over anybody else as far as Teams integration goes. The one thing that's certain is that Microsoft's going to continue its growth, and so that creates a rising tide for everybody. So even a piece of that pie is pretty meaningful, a company the size of Audio Codes. But it's been a long time since I've really tracked them, just because it does seem like a new company, but I know they're all in on Teams like so many other companies are. And
on that point, what I like about that Voca offering is that it's one of because everything, you got the meetings rooms, you got the phones, you've got some SBCs. They're all kind of piecemeal. But what I like about the Voca offering is that it really drags their recording technology, which is another application. It drags their insights, and it could drag SBCs for that matter. There's that one kind of brings it all together, and I think that's an exciting play. But the way Microsoft works, this is, they dabble, right? And so they play the long game. And so people keep asking me, when is Microsoft going to get in the contact center? Well, they are, and it's in SMB, and it's through companies like Audio Codes. And this has got to be a strategic focus for Microsoft, and they're going to keep on growing that. I don't think they can grow that into enterprise by itself. They're probably going to have to do an acquisition to do that. But I think this is an important learning, an important part of strategy for Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm less bullish on Microsoft actually ever becoming a real contact center vendor. I think they'd have to change the way they build products. That's an area you just can't sort of throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. You can on the employee collab side, but in the contact center, that would be pretty damaging to them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Cisco. You wrote a post on Cisco. Yeah, you wrote a post on that. Why don't you go ahead and lead off on this one?
Well, I mean, there's the announcements they made, right, at Cisco Live EMEA, which I thought were pretty good announcements, actually. The GA of their AI assistant, their some other AI capabilities.
They announced on the fly. Trying to put you on that spot, but you have a post.
That's okay, but I think the big thing for Cisco, though, for WebEx is the shift to contact center, right? And we've heard that from other vendors, and that's really the hard pivot they've made. And granted, you could ask why they didn't do it sooner. Well, they didn't have the product, but now that they have the product, they're able to go after it a little bit harder, and that's what we're seeing now. Every time I talk to a channel partner of Cisco's, they say that Cisco's really, really pushing them more and more contact center. And so I think, Cisco, like everybody else in the UC space, understands there's only so much market that you're going to get in UC that's not Microsoft. And so you're fighting for those scraps. With contact center, there's a tremendous amount of upside.
I think to add a little color to those points, I think that there's two big pivots they've made. I call the second one a pivot or not, but the contact center one is certainly clear, but also devices, right? They're really putting a lot more focus on devices, and those are their two sweet spots right now that are really growing. And those are the two sweet spots, because now that they've shifted their strategy to being a friend of Microsoft as opposed to a competitor, those are the two areas that Microsoft are not strong in, right? And so they're downplaying meetings. I wouldn't say they're downplaying necessarily, but they're not putting as much focus on it as they have in the past. They're downplaying messaging, but contact center and devices are their sweet spots. And what they're doing is they're selling that suite, and so they get into these accounts and they're selling that suite, so they have everything. And this is a pretty good, what did they say? Something like I don't remember. It was double digits of how many million plus contact center deals they won, and in the last quarter, and they're getting the whole suite. And so these almost everything in WebEx right now is going up, with the exception of the prem-based business. But they're doing really well, and a lot of people are, again, I keep hearing, WebEx is done, WebEx is over. It's like, I don't think that's true, guys. I think that they're growing in all their sectors, like I just said, and they're getting in big accounts, and they're making good announcements. Like when you talk about Cisco Live, that Apple Vision Pro thing is actually pretty cool, and their sustainability focus. I think they're doing some really good stuff there.
Yeah, the challenge for WebEx is I think the more.
I can't hear you, Zeus.
The challenge for WebEx.
Maybe it's me. Hang on a second here.
You're back.
Okay, here we go. All right, sorry about that. Who knows what happened there?
Yeah, I was saying the challenge for WebEx, I think, is and Brian Stout, the head of collab sales on our analyst call this morning talked about it, is trying to integrate more with the rest of the Cisco suite. So if hybrid work really is the next big wave of work, and Cisco is arguably the only company that can deliver everything soup to nuts, and that should give WebEx an inherent advantage. I don't think they've really played their architectural angle up much, but it seems like they're doing more of that. So I wouldn't, I know it's easy to pick on WebEx. I think they missed a lot of transitions back around the pandemic, but I wouldn't sleep on them either. I think right now the product's actually in a very good position, and they're big enough that they can afford to do some bundling and things like that to get the product into customers.
What's also interesting about Cisco, we often talk about Microsoft and other companies that have these larger bundle plays, but Cisco's got a really large bundle play too, and they were sharing with us that one win, I think it was in healthcare, where it was a couple $100 million deal in total to Cisco, but the collab piece was like 50 or 60 million by itself. And so they're still selling a lot of network gear, and they're still selling a lot of applications and security products that really give a pretty powerful bundle. And I think that's an important part that a lot of the UCaaS industry really can't match, because the WebEx suite, Zoom is very competitive with, and tightly competitive with that WebEx suite. But Zoom doesn't sell all that hardware gear, and I think that's a big difference.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to Five9.
Yeah, not much to say about Five9. I mean, their numbers were a little light, and I'm surprised the street reacted as negatively as they did. I think the secular trends of contact center moving to the cloud is, obviously still there. And to me, they're one of the best positioned companies. You could argue that maybe only NICE is positioned better, but they're sort of the 1-2 in the industry right now, right? You could argue who's 1, who's 2. They got a very predictable model. Like I said, the lower stock price came on a very, 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 reduction in guidance, and so that was a bit of a surprise. But I do think that the rising tide we're seeing in CCaaS, and Javed kind of indicated that on their call this morning, that everybody's growing, and they're one of them, right? They're one of the biggest benefactors.
Yeah, well, not everyone's growing. I think that's an important part. Where a lot of these companies we're talking about today are in growth, but the industry is, enterprise comms is not in a high growth state. I guess contact center, you can say, is the best part of it, but not everyone's growing in that space either. And but the one thing that comes out clear with Five9, and we'll get to NICE here in a minute, is it's amazing how much this industry has changed. I mean, generative AI is only just over a year old. You could say that AI has been changing the contact center for several years now, but the amount of focus on AI, I mean, it's just insane. And I tell people the only thing that matters in contact center today is AI and digital channels, and that's it. No one's talking about ACDs or skills-based routing or even workforce engagement for that matter. It's really about AI, and it's not AI by itself. And so you apply AI to workforce engagement, or you apply AI to other things. But if you listen to the way these companies are talking about their businesses, AI, and then back to your point, Five9 is well positioned. They acquired Inference quite a few years ago. They've got a pretty strong AI story. They've got
a great team.
Thank you. I just want to say the great team, and they specifically mentioned strong growth in Agent Assist. They exited the year, if I got this right, one with 183 customers with over $1 million in ARR. I mean, this is pretty. So your point about the stock market reaction, I've given up on stock market reactions. When a company announces their results, and it doesn't matter how good or how bad they are, I have no way of predicting if the stock is going to go up or down. As far as I can tell, it's a crapshoot. But the other thing that they have, I think, is really important, and they talked about this in their quarterly update, is a really strong partner network. They mentioned BT, TELUS, IBM, Deloitte, et cetera. Record Q4 in enterprise bookings, and I think the one word that kind of describes Five9 is really momentum. They just have
Yeah.
a lot of things lined up, and they're just doing really well. They were confident about their guidance. Yeah, and so I think it's great. I think great position for them, and they also have an analyst event coming up here in early March. I'm looking forward to attending. Anything left on that one?
Nope.
All right, gotta go through this fast. Have they started calling your flight yet?
Soon.
You know, I was going to start off this video saying this episode is brought to you by the letter N and make some sort of comment about NVIDIA, but no, you could. I guess we'll just have to go with it nice because, boy, they're in a sweet spot, aren't they?
I mean, they're the class of the industry right now. I mean, they've got more. You know, they have more products than anybody. They've got. They don't just. It's not a lot of AI. It's a lot of AI vision, but they also have the product to back it up. And they seem to be firing on all cylinders. I mean, every financial metric you look at, you know, their gross margins are going up, the amount of cloud business is going up, their customers are buying their, you know, all the additional products like workforce management, and it's hard to find a flaw with them right now. That they're, like I said, they're the one vendor that's really firing on all cylinders.
It is impressive, and there's one point I want to call out on them is that they have the most stable leadership team, and I think this is really reflective here. And so their leadership team, I think the newest guy there is probably Barry, and he's been there for I don't know 8 years, 10 years. I don't know how long he's been there. And so really executing well, and that stability I think makes a huge difference. They saw something like 26% growth in what they call enterprise, which is again $1 million over ARR. They reaffirmed their forecast, and they expect total cloud revenue to exceed $2 billion in 24, and so really just impressive numbers across the board. One of the things that kind of surprised me, I want to get your thoughts on this, is was they put up a slide in their presentation about the CX TAM, total available market. They put it up in 2023 and says the TAM was 8 billion, and then they show 2028 at 22 billion. Do you see TAM growing that big in CX? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do, depending on what you lump in there, right? There's a bunch of things that revolve around the contact center, you know, sales tools, marketing, things like that haven't really been part of it, but I think should be, you know, could be part of it. And so I do think CX is you know, the more things that get encompassed in that, you know, the better it is for a company like NICE. So I don't, you know, and so there's a distinction here. It's not just contact center that we're talking about, right? With CX.
They said CX. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think CX is really an interesting shift in terminology because it doesn't really move away from the ACD type of mentality of thinking, and there's so many more opportunities for CX just within apps, within the website, so much more contextually capable solutions. In fact, one of the things that I saw at the Cognigy thing, just because it's top of mind, was one of the vendors would put together a wireless headset for a retail environment, and it would allow their retail employees to basically get agent assist, price lookups, all kinds of requests that they can do in the store to a conversational AI machine. That is kind of, we call it agent assist, part of CX. That's really CX as well, and just a whole bunch of new opportunities that these companies are well positioned for to accommodate. And I think it's just a whole different way of thinking, and that's how that TAM expands. One other thought there on NICE is that they've also got that full CX suite, and they acquired CX1, which is now the majority of their business, but that was the InContact acquisition. I don't know, it was 2015, something like that. They acquired that, and they've really built that out very nicely. And CX1 and Line's become a very powerful suite with generative AI, with that Copilot, Autopilot, and Actions. Really nice story coming together there. All right, last company.
We got to do this quick.
Okay, Ring Central.
Yeah, it was sort of kind of a lukewarm quarter. They had a slight beat, the conservative guidance. I think the more meaningful thing is though, Vlad guided to 100 million in additional ARR from new products by 2025, which includes Ring CX, their own contact center, Ring Sense for Sales, and the Ring's central events business. And that to me was really the story behind the earnings call. It's the pivot to the expansion of products within the overall Ring Central suite. Everybody knows them as a great phone system company, and they're probably the class of cloud calling. But success for them is going to be based on how well they can actually sell those additional products.
Yeah, and, they had revenue up like 9%, and people are upset it wasn't double-digit growth, but 9% is not bad. And the problem they've got is that their contact center is still brand new. Ring CX is still brand new, and that's what the high growth is right now. And so they're saying that they expect Ring CX to be 100 million in ARR by the end of 2025. So they're seeing a pretty good ramp up there. They just acquired that events business. So that's still going to ramp up a little bit. But I think a really strong portfolio, and I think it's a pretty decent story over there. They've got their LS event next week as well. So we got so you're going to Mobile World Congress. I'm going to Ring Central. I'm going to 8x8, and then 5.9 right after that. So busy time for conferences.
All right.
Anything to wrap up here before you jump on that plane?
No, I got to go though because I got a board soon.
Got to go. All right. Well, thanks for watching. And the only comments we got was that they heard us the whole time when I lost audio. But thanks for watching, and we'll be back with another episode when we feel like it.
All right.